here's the tutorial on how I made my Hunter Bad Batch cosplay. This is super great and easy for Halloween, cosplays, whatever you want. All you're going to need is a foam piece. Mine is an old yoga mat that my cat chewed up. So you're going to want to measure it to where your torso is and then just cut that area in half. You are going to be using both sides. And so I'm just using a pen and marking where my collarbone is, where my shoulders are, just so I know exactly where to cut. And then I will be connecting all the dots so it's pretty seamless and symmetrical. Here I am cutting out all of the pieces, and I just folded in half to make sure both sides were symmetrical. Now I'm putting it against my body, and as you can see, we kind of have the base done. And now we're just going to do a lot of detailing. So for the back part, I just put the front on top of the back and then traced it out. The only difference between the two sides is that the back is a little bit longer, so it doesn't go as deep where the neck is. But I cut it out just the same. Now I have two chest armor pieces. Now we're getting into the details of Hunter's chest armor. I just use a straight edge to trace out where his armor is. I looked at an image of Hunter's chest armor while I was doing this and tried to make it as symmetrical as possible. Now it's time to cut it out. I'm going in with my X-Acto knife and doing an inside bevel as much as I can. So I'm just curving my blade a little bit inward so that when I cut it, it will look a little bit more professional. And then I kind of just ripped it off. Using an X-Acto knife is really easy, but if you're a kid, just be safe. Now you want to keep these two pieces, and I cut out matching rectangles so that I could do an inside portion of his armor to make it more 3D looking. Then I repeated those steps for the top part that goes next to the other rectangles. You'll see it all come together in a second. Now it's time to pull out your hot glue gun. Again, kids, be safe. And I'm going to be hot gluing just those small pieces to the edge. As you can see, there's a little gap there. Try to fill yours in all the way, because then it looks a little bit more complete. So I'm just hot gluing it all together, and then those leftover pieces will be going right on top of the foam that we just glued. I used hot glue and it worked well for videos and pictures, but if you're looking for a more long-term solution, I would recommend E6000 or some kind of contact cement. Using hot glue is easier indoors and you don't have to use any PPE. Now the base is done and it looks really great so far. And for the back side, instead of doing Hunter's whole backpack, because that's a lot of work, I decided just to do a small square because he has that underneath his backpack. So I cut out a square to the best of my abilities, using my X-Acto knife once more, and just tracing it out, making sure everything looked even. Once again, I'm using my hot glue gun to put it all together, and it made a square. So once you assemble all of those pieces, we are going to be attaching it right on top of the back piece of the chest armor. And as you can see, you just want to fit it on as best as you can. And just make sure that it's even in place. I ended up mine slightly uneven, but just do your best and it will turn out fine. Now I realized when I did this that both sides didn't match all the way, so I did add a shoulder strap where I hot glued one end onto the back piece of the chest armor, and then I kind of measured it out to see how well it fits, and I'll be hot gluing it later. So here's what the two pieces look like, and now it's time to spray paint. So took everything outside, and I just used some old white spray paint as a base, and just painted it all over both sides of both pieces of the armor. If it's not perfect, that's okay. And now it's time to paint. So I'm using some Michael's paints. I got white, I got gray, and I have red, and then I also have black. So you're just gonna need those 4 colors to make Hunter's armor right there. So I just used some gray, and I went in and I brushed right on top of the white just to add in all those gaps. I use a lot of paint because the foam really soaks it in, so make sure you have a decent amount to use. Then I went in for the black and I did the exact same thing, painted it all as to one base layer. From there, I know I wanted a darker gray, so I mixed a little bit of white with the black, and I made a darker. Some white on top of the chest pieces of the armor. I did it where the shadows are, just to look like it was a little bit more worn out and just a fresh piece of armor. Now I went in with the classic red stripes. I did the sides first and then I filled it in to make this deeper red color. I combined a lot of red and just a bit of black, and I think it looked really well in the end. Now I did some more dry brushing onto the black, and I added some detailing, as you can see, on the bottom pieces of the armor. And here is where I glued the two tops of the pieces together, so now it's just one large piece that I fit over my head when I'm ready to put it on. So to make everything attach well, I did use Velcro or any kind of hook and loop that you can find, and I just hot glued it, but I ended up adding in a more secure solution, so I just used craft glue to make sure it all stayed put, and from then it was pretty easy. For this part, you can either use a long strip and tuck it in, or you can cut it in half and use two pieces. Now for the try-on test, I think it looks really great, and you just Velcro both of the sides together. After I tried it on, I realized that it's a little too big, so I had to move the Velcro in just a little bit. Now it's time for the pauldrons. Make sure you save the pieces of the foam from the first part when you cut out your armholes, and then you're going to be gluing those together, so they should be exactly the right size. Again, I used my hot glue gun just to glue those two sides together, and they actually formed pretty easily. And then after that, I kind of shaved down the sides so it was more of an oval shape. Now it's time to spray paint. Once again, I went in with the white and I spray painted just that base coat. I recommend doing both sides of paint, which I did not, but if you don't want it to be seen the purple at all, then I recommend spraying both sides. And I just went in with my black Colorshot, which is a fantastic spray paint. I think it works really well and the colors are super vibrant. And that's how it should look. So I again went in with a little bit of white weathering. As you can see, I was watching Bad Batch at that point, and I just wanted to make it a little bit more worn armor. And he has a bit of gray on his pauldron, so I just went in and added some gray detailing as well. Now it's time for the red stripe. It actually kind of looks like an H, which is an easy way to trace it out. Just make sure that when you're putting on the red, you pay attention to what side the armor will be facing out. I accidentally messed up and I had to fix it a little bit later on. Now it's time for that last little bit of detailing, the 99 and the skull. I am no artist by any means, so I kind of just did my best. I recommend doing the outline of the skull first and then painting it all in white, and then going back and adding those details later on. The 99 is pretty easy to draw, just two ovals and a line. Now you may be wondering how these pauldrons attach to you, and that is by magnets. So I used a little bit of scrap fabric and some craft glue and just made little pockets for my magnets to go on. So I kind of just slid the magnet in like so, and they attached well underneath my shirt. Here is the final look of the Hunter cosplay. I think it turned out really great for building it in only a couple of days, and it works great as an easy DIY Halloween costume cosplay, and I hope it works well for you. Enjoy!